Right, hello, it's me again. I thought I would make a little video. I feel like I always say that. Oh, I thought I'm gonna make a little video. Well, I thought I was gonna make a video about how and why to be active, mostly how. But I've got 10 ideas and that's not obviously all that there is. You can do lots of different things. There's a lot of platforms and a lot of loads more than 10 ways to be active, but here's ideas for somebody who wants to get started, who's maybe thinking that they want to get more active but feel a bit nervous and things like that. So I thought I'd start about why. Obviously this is one of the, what happens to the animals is something that they cannot have control over and they can't speak up for themselves. So I think for us it's so important to do it. I feel like if everyone who was vegan would be active, we would have so much more change. Like we could make such a bigger impact than we are at the moment, because I understand why somebody wouldn't want to be active, because it kind of makes you a little bit like, it makes people look at you a bit differently. Maybe they'll, have some uncomfortable conversations with you that you might not want to have. But I think it's important, it's so important. We have to challenge people's ways that they think, because I think most people are actually against animal abuse already. They're just not realizing that they're actually causing all this suffering, and it's obviously a hard thing to come in terms with. Like somebody might start having a conversation with you and you might say something and they might think, oh my goodness, yeah, that's right, but they don't it's not a nice thing to come in a realization with. So obviously people might get angry or upset, but most of the time I think it's important to remember the animals and what they're going through, because what we're going through when having that uncomfortable conversation and somebody maybe getting a bit upset or angry or sad or whatever, then that's nothing compared to what the animals go through and how many of them die every day, how many of them are separated from their families every day, how many of them are getting tortured every day, and all we've got to do is have an uncomfortable conversation. It doesn't even come to comparison. Obviously everyone needs to see where they are at, mentally, are you able to put yourself in a position to have these conversations? But I think everyone can do something. There's loads of different ways of being active, so I thought I'd just go through some of them. And also just think of yourself. How did you go vegan? Was it because you saw a documentary? Was it because you saw a video? Was it because you saw something that someone was sharing online? Was it because you had a conversation with somebody? Was it a combination of all of these things? Most people don't come to these conclusions on their own. So just think of how you went vegan and how most vegans that I know say, oh, I wish I did it sooner. You can be that person to get someone to do it sooner. So yeah, I think it can feel daunting and scary, but I think all you gotta do is start, and then in the end, you're making a difference for the animals. Although obviously the change is so slow and it can feel really frustrating, but I think it's so important for us to do. So yeah, so I thought I'd go through these 10 different ideas, and obviously I'd love to hear what you do, what activism do you do? If I don't mention it in my list, just let me know. And yeah, I want to hear also if you are vegan but you're worried about getting active, what is it that's worrying about it for you? And I'd just love to hear what you all got to think. These are in kind of order that is not really this is the best way or whatever. These are kind of in a random order, just in a way of what came to my mind. So first of all, I've got talking one. Yeah, spending time with non-vegans and actually speaking up for the animals. Sometimes people say stuff that is kind of silly, that it doesn't make sense. Sometimes people say things but the animals are here for us or whatever. This is when people say things like that, that's a good moment to come up with a response and to have the conversation. Obviously it depends on so many things, are your friends receptive? Are your friends and family, is it a safe space for you to have a conversation like this? But most of the time it is, it seems scarier than what it is. For me, I think because I'm quite like an outspoken person, for me it comes quite naturally to speak up, and for me it's actually hard sometimes not to. Like sometimes it's not the time to do it, you know, and you know, it's just finding the time and place. But this is one way that you can do it. If you have non-vegan friends, spend time with them, you know, show them, take them to like a vegan restaurant. I'm not saying that, oh, show them that vegan food is good and then they'll go vegan. It doesn't work like that, but it's a really good way to start a conversation, because then, you know, you're showing them some good times and then they might bring it up themselves and then you can have the conversation. I think it's really important to hold people accountable. I think it can feel hard, it can feel like you're upsetting people, but in the end, just remember the animals. Don't forget about the animals. Like, just don't ever forget about the animals. Don't forget why you're vegan and why everyone else also should be. Don't forget that. Just keep that in your mind when having these conversations, even when it gets uncomfortable. But obviously, yeah, it's a little bit different for everyone. It depends how people are like in your inner circle. And I would say that for me, this is the hardest type of activism there is. Like, I find it so much easier to have a conversation like this on the street with a random person. If it doesn't go well, they can just walk off and it's finished. But when it's like your mum, you know, they might get upset, they might, you know, you might start like an argument, you know, things like that. But I think we owe it to the animals to speak up for them, and sometimes say, like, if you've had the conversation a couple of times with, say, a family member or a friend and it's not getting anywhere, you don't have to keep having the conversation. Like, just, you know your friends, you know your family. I think as long as you have made it clear, like, why you think that we shouldn't abuse animals, then it just is up to them in the end of the day. You can't make anyone vegan. And one thing that I would say in this, don't expect it to work. Don't give yourself an expectation that, yeah, this is gonna make them vegan now, because it might not. It also might, though. So I think it's worth the chance. It's worth giving it a shot, because at this point, I have, to my knowledge, I've got 2 friends and my mum who have gone vegan from these conversations. Yeah, I have had some friends who have gone vegan and my mum's gone vegan after these conversations. Some people are closer to going vegan than others. So for some people, all you gotta do is have a little tiny conversation. Sometimes they already know that they should be vegan and that's the right thing to do. In that case, the conversation is very easy. But sometimes people are really far. Sometimes people have no idea what happens to the animals in these industries, and it's really hard to come to terms with. Like, especially if your whole life you thought that, say, the dairy industry is this lovely, sweet thing that is all like just about love and care for the animal. Yeah, sometimes when they hear what happens to the animals, actually, they'll think you're lying. They won't even take it for serious. They'll get angry. They say, oh, what you're showing me is propaganda, it's all fake, it's all in America. This is a very common one that I hear. Like, everyone thinks any sort of like bad footage is in America, which is just not the case. Especially in the UK, we have such large like variety of different footage from different farms and different slaughterhouses. But yeah, for example, like Finland doesn't have as much footage. But honestly, in the end of the day, I would always encourage people to do their own research, like look into it themselves. Like, you can find out just by Googling stuff. Obviously, you will get like a biased version when it comes from the farmers and stuff. But it's still all there. Like, they will still say what actually happens, but just like phrase it a bit nicer. But when they've already heard like the way that you've said it, they can see the connection between those two things. So hopefully you can make changes. One other thing, this is kind of in the same category, but if you can get them to watch footage, that is just the easiest way to get to people, because sometimes you're going to be having a conversation with a person for say 2-3 years and they won't get it, and then they'll see like 1-minute video and that will change them. Because even when you tell people stuff, they, you know, it's kind of abstract if they've not seen it. And once they see it, then it becomes more real and they realize this is actually what does happen. So yeah, if you can get them to watch footage, amazing. If you can watch a documentary, like a whole documentary with somebody, it's just pretty much, it's going to work. Obviously, it's so mentally straining to watch like Dominion or Land of Hope and Glory. I watched Land of Hope and Glory with a friend who was like quite a new friend at the time who wasn't vegan. He's super vegan now, so you know it does work. But yeah, it's really draining to watch that type of footage. But it just depends on like how much you can handle personally. But yeah, for me, I always see the animals like I see the animals as the real victims here and not me, who might get a bit upset about watching something. But then obviously it's just knowing your limits, like knowing what kind of headspace you're at. And yeah, sometimes if I've been a bit more overwhelmed or a bit more you know, there's been a bit more things going on in my life, then that wouldn't be a time when I would sit down and watch Dominion with somebody. But yeah, it's just knowing your own limits and listening to yourself, but also just prioritizing what really matters. But yeah, when having these conversations with friends and family, just ask a lot of questions. But it can be hard because obviously you have an emotional connection with this person. You often love that person, and then you hear them say really annoying, stupid arguments. It can get really infuriating. Whereas like if that was a random person, you would have potentially more patience. But I just think, yeah, asking questions from people, saying things like, do you think this is okay? And like, you know, things like that, then you will find out, like they will come up with the answers from themselves. Because most people, like I said, are already against animal abuse. So all they've got to do is align their actions with their morals. Second thing is street activism. A lot of people are really scared of this, which is why we have especially after COVID, such low numbers of volunteers for street activism. It's so sad. I remember we used to, like when I started doing AV, we used to have not loads and loads, but we used to have a lot more people than what come now. I personally don't do AV anymore. We've started our own street activism thing called Plymouth Action for Animals, and you can start your own too. Like you don't need any permits to do things like this. Obviously depends on the country. You can start your own thing and do whatever you want to do to speak up for the animals. You and your organisation can do then whatever you want. So yeah, street activism. So that could be showing footage, VR challenges. You know, some places you can give out food, and then in exchange of them getting the food, they'll watch the thing and then you have a conversation. That's quite good. At the moment we're just challenging people to watch it and not giving anything out, so it doesn't have to cost any money really. Obviously getting VR headsets and you know the screens, it does cost a little bit. It depends. Most people have a laptop, so it should be okay. But yeah, doing things like Viva, you can look into that. I don't know how, I think that might be a little bit limited because of COVID, giving out food in general, but that and doing visual protests, so things like that is what you can do in the group. Yeah, you can do this on your own, you don't need a group, but obviously in the group is kind of, it makes you feel a bit more safe. Although I must say I've been doing activism for quite a while, and we've never had any like sort of violence. Like people get a bit annoyed, but no one ever like has like physically attacked us or, you know, shouted at us like in a really scary way. Like I've never been scared doing activism. So just, you know, just bear that in mind. Like it's not, when I started AV, I was completely sure that some farmer was gonna come and punch me in the face, and I was like, yeah, bring it on. But it doesn't actually happen. So yeah, I think that's why a lot of people are scared of street activism, because they think that someone will come and hurt them, but it doesn't actually very often happen. The third thing, which you can do from your house or wherever you are, is sharing content through social media like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. Hey, you can make your own content or just share things. Like there's a lot of activists there already sharing stuff. All you gotta do is click the share button. I was really scared of when I first started this. I never thought I was gonna do that. Even when I was doing AV, I still thought I'm never gonna be one of those who share stuff online, because I remember as a non-vegan, I never actually had somebody like that in my life who was sharing the stuff. But just the thought of that annoyed me. That was obviously because I felt guilty, so I didn't want to think about all that stuff. So yeah, I always thought I'm not gonna do it. But when lockdown happened, we weren't able to do street activism, so I started doing it online, and yeah, it's very easy. Sometimes the only thing with that is you don't know how much impact you're having. But I have heard from so many people who are vegan now saying like, oh, I saw someone post this, and then, you know, that was like something that pushed them towards going vegan. So it is something that happens. and they might not ever come to you and say, hey, you changed me, but again, it's not really about you, it's more about the animals. So I think if you have a potential to make a change or to help someone make a change, I think it's totally worth doing. So the fourth thing is having conversations online. So this is also something I started through lockdown. I've used a platform called Wakey. I've got one video where I'm actually speaking to somebody on Wakey. You know, you can just put topics, say, I've tried loads of different stuff, like sometimes a bit more like things like, do you think animal abuse is okay? What I have found that ends up with better conversations is I've just put, have you ever considered going vegan? And from that, people kind of, you attract people who are kind of have already given it some thought. Sometimes people will say no, but they normally don't call you then. Yeah, I've had some really good conversations on Wakey, and I tried it on Omegle as well, but that's just so much slower with typing. With Wakey, it's good because it gives you a 20-minute window to have the conversation and you can continue later, but I find that 20 minutes is good because then you can move on and then you can, you know, talk to the next person. But I have had really good success in Wakey. Lots of people have said to me, oh, I've gone vegan because of you. Thank you for, you know, because they've got Watch Dominion or something. They've said, oh, thank you for showing me. Like, and these sometimes are people who started the conversation with, I would never go vegan. Yeah, or saying things like, oh, I love bacon too much. But in the end, they've gone vegan. So it's like really amazing. So I think it's a really good way to have the conversation. If there is any more websites like that are good for the conversation, please hit me up because I really want to know. But yeah, I've been using Wakey and I'm finding it good. So, oh, I know my numbers. So 5, yeah, is protesting. Like, go to, you know, marches. If you've got things like, well, obviously, like showing position stuff is a form of protest, but I'm talking about, like, you know, for example, the animal rights march, things like that. Oh my God, we went last year. It was amazing, so nice. Like having so many vegans around you and just seeing how strong we can be together. That was obviously through not lockdown, but through COVID time. So it was a lot smaller than it was before, and it was still really. Yeah, it was really big and amazing. Like, obviously the government aren't gonna make a change if they don't get a push, and these kind of things are a good reminder for the people in lead that people do actually care about these things. So yeah, go into do marches and bigger protests like that. Oh, my favorite type of activism. I don't, like, in the end, I don't know how effective it actually is. Like, who knows, like how many people we change on a day like that. But I just think if we can have the chance to speak up, it's just a really fun way of doing it when everyone is together, and it's just like a whole day thing. Just kind of reminds you how far we are though. Like, we're so far from animal liberation, but like one day, hopefully, maybe. And number 6. So yeah, if you're going to like, well, to be fair, I know a lot of people who do street activism who are like a bit more quieter, or like they have social anxiety, or they're a bit more introverted, and they still do it and they still manage to do it. But if that's just something that you think, okay, I really don't want to do that, there are still things that you can do on your own that involve going outside but not speaking to people. So for example, chalking. I have never tried this and I really want to do it this summer, so hopefully we can do it with Plymouth Action for Animals, and that would be really fun. But yeah, so chalking, for example, getting stickers and sticking them in public places, you know, with like statistics and things. I think those are good way to get people's attention and get people Googling and thinking about things. Also, like leaflets, you know, getting leaflets and just leaving them around. That's a really good way of like getting to people's space without you having to actually have the conversation with them. So yeah, those are quite good things. But yeah, there's loads of stickers you can get online. Some places will send them for free. I personally find things where there's like pictures of real animals are more effective, like just at least in my eye. If there's a picture of like, I don't know, like a sad animal with like some sort of slogan, like as a cartoon, like I don't know, personally, as a non-vegan, I wouldn't have taken that seriously. So I find that probably others won't either. But, you know, not judging you. If you've got stickers with cartoons on it, then go for it. But I would personally, in my eyes, the ones with real animals and, you know, real facts are more effective. But yeah, that's a really easy way, and it kind of feels empowering. You put a sticker somewhere and you're just like, yeah, someone's gonna see that. And people actually like, It's so funny because there's one place where I've been putting a sticker and there's always somebody who rips it off, and I just think they're not very easy stickers to get off, so that person's there like trying to grind this sticker off the place where I put it, and I'm just thinking that is so funny because like that person is actually there thinking about this and like, you know, having to look at the picture for quite a long time. So every time someone rips a sticker off, I'm like, awesome, next one. But yeah, I love stickers, so yeah, that and leaflets. Yeah, I think they're good because, you know, you can then spread information without you actually having to, you know, confront anyone. So 7, creating art. So are you artistic? Do you know how to sing? Do you know how to play an instrument? Do you draw beautiful things? Like, are you good at writing? Like, do that and then share it online. It's really, yeah, like when I said earlier, like, oh, cartoons, sad pictures don't make a difference. I don't know, like, that was more like in a form of when someone's walking by, but you know, see if somebody's like looking online and they actually have time to like think about the message that you put in there. I think art is a really beautiful way of sharing a message because it opens people up differently. I don't know if comedy counts as art, but there's some like vegan comedians who manage to like have these non-vegan audiences and bring these topics up, and it's just amazing. I think it's such a gift. Comedy, because obviously when you get people laughing, you get them more open. So yeah, if you can do anything like that, I would totally encourage it. Not everyone's artsy, but some people are, and if you have that gift, like, definitely use it to share it. So number 8, volunteering at a sanctuary or donating. So obviously not everyone's got time to volunteer and do activism. I think most people do though. But say if you don't, obviously donating to sanctuary is really important because they do this hard work to look after the animals who have been given a chance to get away from the oppressive system that is farming. So yeah, if you can donate to sanctuaries, obviously find out about how the sanctuary is like first, because not all sanctuaries are actually sanctuaries. Like when you look more deeper into it, they actually breed animals and whatever, but normally these ones that have farmed animals in them, they are normally pretty genuine. Donate, and if you've got time to visit and volunteer, totally do that, and then you can talk about your experiences with people. If you're sharing pictures and videos you've taken from sanctuaries, and you know, talk about your time that you had there or the stories of those individual animals, that is something that can get people to connect to the actual animals and remembering that they have personalities and they have, like, you know, the will to live and things like that. So I think that's a really nice, effective way. And obviously sanctuaries are not easy to run, they're really hard work, so I think they appreciate any volunteers. Says me who've never ever volunteered, but I will do it one day. It's just, yeah, obviously doing all this other type of activism does take quite a big chunk of my time, but definitely one day I would like to go. So number 9, wearing vegan clothing. Well, not vegan clothing, but clothing with vegan messaging. Sometimes that can be a really good conversation starter as well. Without you having to say anything at all, somebody will bring up what you're already wearing. And things like, you know, sometimes it's just like giving a bit of information for people. Like, you know, you can get those little pins or tops or whatever that say things like, well, I don't know, I've got this pin that says, not your mum, not your milk, and sometimes people can kind of be like, what does that mean? And then you get to have the conversation about, well, actually in dairy industry they have to take their babies away, kind of thing. And sometimes you don't have to get to have the conversation, but you're bringing it, if you're wearing it in clothing, you're bringing it like out to the public. So, you know, sometimes people see it and they end up Googling stuff, or they end up seeing it, and then they end up having the conversation with their friends or anything like that. So, you know, it's just bringing it to people's attention. And obviously there's people who already kind of know they should be vegan, like I was for ages, like just not going vegan, but I kind of knew it was the right thing to do. Like, it's just bringing it back to those people's minds and hopefully pushing them a bit further. Yeah, I actually only had 9 things, but 10th thing is going to a vigil, which I've never done. But going to a vigil is basically you go see the animals before they go to slaughter outside the slaughterhouses. This was actually something that I had as my New Year's resolution one year, but it was the COVID year, so I ended up not going, and I still haven't been because I'm actually kind of like scared, because I'm worried that I'll go there and it's gonna like completely just upset me so much. But I think it's a good way to show people that this is not something that people are okay with, and obviously then you can film things and you know, show pictures, and you can then share these stories with non-vegans as like your personal story to say this is what happened, and hopefully that will push people forward. But yeah, that was my 10 tips of how to, well, not tips, but 10 ideas of how to get active, and I hope it was helpful. I hope you're all doing good. I hope you're all able to spread the message in some way, and tell me what you thought. Share it with me, like if there's something that I missed off my list, if there's something that what do you do to be active? If you're scared to be active, why is that? Anyway, thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe, share with your friends, and yeah, that's it. Bye.